Hi, today on Community Connections, we're going to be talking about the changes coming on cable TV, not only in Long Branch. Today on Community Connections, I've got Don Swanson from Monmouth University and Kevin Cieri, both of them Long Branch residents and both active members of the Cable Commission. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Now, in fairness to Don, Kevin, he didn't have to come very far. We do this over at Monmouth University, and you've got a title over here.
Well, I'm the chair of the communication department, and of
That's
course
a title.
and professor of communication, and we tape this in the studio in the Plangier Communication Center here.
But today, you're also, both of you serve on the Cable Commission, and normally, Kevin, you're in the other room making sure that the show looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's actually both Don and I are the co-chairs of the Long Branch Cable Television Commission. So, and yes, normally I am on the other side of the fence, but today both Don and I come on the show to talk about the conversion of digital television coming up in 2009 and a few other issues.
Well, let's talk about that first, because I'm technologically prehistoric, and I see ads on TV that shows everything's going digital. What does that mean to the ordinary consumer?
Well, basically it means better picture quality, more channels, with the advancement in channel technology in both television as well as bandwidth management technology. Television signals from different parts of the world can come into different cable systems and can be transcribed and broadcast onto television sets that people have. And in February of 2009, there's going to be an official, all-encompassing digital conversion of all signals to a digital environment.
Well, if I'm watching the show, I already get Channel 20, which means I get Comcast TV.
Right.
I'm one of those people. I'm a subscriber. Do I have to do anything, or cable TV is cable TV?
Well, you know, the existing signal for broadcast channels, well, let me put it this way. If you're on cable TV and you have fairly new sets, probably you don't have to do anything.
Will I notice a difference? My
No.
picture's not going to change one bit?
No.
Okay.
But
good.
if you're on an antenna and you're on, or an older television set that is not digital capable, runs on analog signal, and Kevin probably could better explain the difference between analog and digital. But analog channels are the basic channels that we're accustomed to. You know, it used to be that we had the channels 2 through 13 were the major ones. They're all analog. I think what, up to 99 is analog?
Right, a 99 is analog.
And all the
right.
channels above that are digital. Well, what's happening is everything's going digital, and this is freeing up space on that band, that lower band, that now is going to be available for all of the other digital communication devices that everybody uses in their life.
Such as?
Well, such as the telephone that's in my pocket that I forgot to turn off.
If it rings.
Such as any of the two-way communication things that people have. You know, so many things are going wireless today. Any wireless system has to have space to operate. So the government is trying to free up bandwidth space to do that. And the fact is that digital technologically is the thing of the future, and this has been in the works for quite a while, so people have been warned.
But now, let me just play devil's advocate. I live in Long Branch. I've been using an antenna that's on my roof forever, and I really don't want to pay a cable TV bill. What do I do now? And they're not watching this show. Yeah. We know that.
We know, because this is purely a cable show.
Right. What do they do?
All they have to do is what Kevin said, is
Right.
go get one of these boxes. And the government is even giving out, the federal government is giving out coupons. That's why they have advertisements all the
Right,
time
sure.
about that, to help you buy the box, which will convert the signal you're getting from the antenna into a digital signal to go into your TV set.
So my old, be it rabbit ears, I don't know if people, I assume there are still some people who use that, but people who have their antenna on their roof and have been using it for years, their TV and their antenna system will still be good. They just have to do a little bit of upgrade. Any idea what the
Just have to have the
approximate price will-
conversion box.
The conversion box costs somewhere in the neighborhood of about $50 to $60, depending upon where you get it. But as Don mentioned, you can get a $40 coupon from the government. I believe the government allows for 2 coupons per household. So if you have two television sets that are running off of the antennas, a rooftop antenna, you'll be able to hook up one box to 2 separate television sets, and they will automatically convert each of the analog signals to a digital channel, which then can be played on your television set.
So everybody should be good. They just are going to have to do a little bit of work.
Well, there is one other complexity I think we should mention. A lot of people will have, as I had until recently in my home, multiple TV sets, some of which are fairly new and are digital capable, some of which are fairly old and are not, are
Okay.
still analog sets, will not read a digital signal. So if you have an old set, which is in a different room, for example, or something, and you want to continue to use it after February 9th, you have to get a digital box for that set too, even if you're on cable. Because you see, the simple way to look at it is now all the signals coming to whatever kind of set you have are going to be digital, not analog. If you have an old set that's analog, you have to have the box to convert.
No way I can use this as an excuse to go out and buy a new high-def TV.
Oh, sure, a lot of people are going to use it as that.
I've been
It's
trying
different
that
than
for at least
yeah,
a few months
yeah.
now, so
Well, maybe that's the answer to the downturn in the economy is people will be buying TV sets like
Well,
crazy.
I have a TV, probably like a lot of guys. I mean, my 2 TVs, I plan on keeping until they die, and one of them is 8 years old, the other 6 years old. I'm not planning on going out and spending any money soon, and this is, let's be clear, this isn't going to require me to do that.
Well, not you probably. I'm just guessing. Your 8-year-old TV set you may need a box on. Your
Okay.
6-year-old one is maybe digital,
It
probably
was,
digital
right.
capable.
Okay. Cable Commission is also undertaking another task, which is the negotiations with Comcast on a new contract. What do you guys have to go through to do that?
Well, the first thing right now is waiting right now for Comcast to supply the city with a letter of intent for negotiations. Once that's in place, we'll be having our public hearing sometime in late January, and it's tentatively scheduled for January 28th, which is a Wednesday at 7 o'clock. It'll be in the council chambers. Now, we had a public hearing approximately a year ago, and we had residents come in. And usually the public hearing is geared more towards complaints or comments towards the cable service provider. In this case here in Long Branch, it's Comcast. However, our residents who attended the meeting last year were pretty vocal about some of the things that the commission was doing insofar as running Channel 20 in and of itself. And we've taken a lot of the comments that they gave us, and we've put them into reality. We've done things such as established an email box for people to make comments on, or if they want to get to put a community bulletin board on for a community service event. They want to promote that. They can use the email address that's provided. We also have a website now that has copies of our meeting minutes, and it's somewhat interactive. And we're also experimenting too within the website with the possibility of taking Channel 20 and streaming it on the internet. We have a new bulletin board system that we're going to be putting together, or it's going to be installed sometime early in 2009. And once we put that in place, we're going to be looking to streaming Channel 20 over the internet. And by doing so, we'll be able to hit 100% of the residents who don't necessarily have Comcast or have direct satellite TV, or if they have Verizon Fios, they can turn around and they can watch Channel 20, because right now, DirecTV, satellite TV, and Fios don't carry Channel 20. So we'll have 100% market saturation in Long Branch with Channel 20 through the internet.
Assuming someone has the
Right,
internet.
in addition
So-
with Comcast,
Right.
right.
So you asked what we do. Basically, of course, the commission is a group of 11 people appointed by the city council who volunteer their time to try to make some things happen. We operate LBC 20, Long Branch Channel 20, which is a cable access channel, which has this show and a few other programs that we put on, and the community bulletin board, which we think is a really important service.
The community bulletin board is what runs when there's no show on, and
That's correct.
That's correct.
makes
right.
announcements. And since we're here, tell people how that works and how we manage that.
Well, what happens is often that people will, when they have something that they want to be put on, and we put on just nonprofit things, we don't do commercial things. Often they call your office and talk to a person in your office who then puts it up. Kevin also takes a lot of information. Also, we have a tech support person who takes some of the information, and we have a number of organizations that traditionally put notice of their various events.
Church
and so forth on.
events,
Right.
local
Right,
events,
senior
community
center,
fairs.
public library.
Community meetings, public meetings. The library has been very active. The senior center has been very active in posting all of their things. So we think some people depend on those things. The other feature,
And it's free.
yeah,
Yeah,
No charge
absolutely.
for that.
Right.
And the other feature that we do have that we haven't had to use that for quite a while is that the emergency management director, the police, the fire department, if there's something that they think is really important that everyone needs to know immediately, can go in, they have immediate web access to this, can go in and override the rest of it, put the notice up.
So as
So-
long as we don't have a blackout,
Yeah.
and there's still power,
Right.
you can get, the OEM guys can
Sure.
get something up there fairly
Absolutely.
quickly.
Absolutely,
For
sure.
example, I think we had, last time we had a big snowstorm, we kind of blacked out other things and there was immediate information on the screen about where people should park and what was going to happen with the snow clearing operations, what to expect.
Now, you were talking, Comcast has got to give their notice of intent. What are you going to do? What happens after that? We've got about a minute before we take our break, but let's start there.
Well, we have the hearing to get public comment on it. And once that's done, then we simply advise the city government on what our reaction is to Comcast service. And I suspect we'll probably be advising that the city should go ahead and renegotiate the franchise with Comcast.
I mean, it's, as a practical matter, going to another provider would be extremely difficult.
Well, you'd have to have another provider who'd want to come in and buy the infrastructure from Comcast and provide the service. And as far as we know, there's no one else interested in doing that.
When you say the infrastructure, what do you mean?
We mean the wires in the street, on the poles,
The box in my house?
yeah, the whole thing. Yep.
So somebody would have to, we'd have to say, we don't want Comcast back.
Yeah, I mean, if that were to happen, it would likely be Cablevision or one of the big providers coming in and saying, okay, we want to provide the service in Long Branch, and they would negotiate with Comcast for what Comcast owns and trying to provide it.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back for the second half of the show.
Hello. Yes. Can I ask a few questions about the apartment on Park Street?
What was your name?
My name is Juan Hernandez.
It's been rented.
Oh, it's gone. Hello, my name is Sanjay Kumar. I am calling about the apartment on Park Street.
It's not available.
Not available?
Hello, my name is Tyrone Washington. I'm calling about the apartment on Park Street.
Just been rented.
Hello, I am Chen Ling. My name is Khalid bin Ali. I'm Tuan Vo.
Hello, my name is Moshe Goldberg. I use a wheelchair.
It's gone. Not available. All right. Thank you.
Yes, hello, my name is Graham Wellington. I'm calling about the apartment for rent on Park Street. Is that still available?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Really?
Housing discrimination is illegal. If you think you've been a victim because of your race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, or family status, call us. Fair housing. It's not an option. It's the law.
To the list of places you might find sexual predators, add this one. Last year, 1 in 5 children was sexually solicited online. To learn what you can do to protect your kids' online life, visit cybertipline.com. Help delete online predators.
We're back with the second half of Community Connections. We're talking about the Cable Commission and cable TV. Now, we ended up the first half of the show talking about how, for practical matters, it's impossible to change providers. And I personally, I don't feel any reason to. I'm pretty happy with the service I get. It's not cheap, but they don't go out.
Everybody
Pictures.
complains about the cost of no matter which service you have.
Right.
They
It wouldn't be
complain
cheaper
about-
with
Sure.
someone else, and I think Comcast, to me, delivers a pretty good product. And I'm one of those people, I get my internet through them also. But there is a lot of, there's competition out there now.
That's right.
Vios is coming, and I'm under the understanding it's picked up a lot of customers, not yet in Long Branch, but it's coming. And the ubiquitous satellites. You know, a lot of people are going to DirecTV. Now, that's not really regulated the same way.
No. When we're talking, remember we were talking about franchising, and that means they have to have a franchise because they have to follow certain public utility regulations in the way the wires are managed that are on the poles out there on the street, just like the telephone company, just like the electric company, just like the gas company with, you know, with the lines that they run. And so they're regulated. They have to have the franchise.
Comcast, we're talking
Yeah,
about now.
yeah.
That's-
Whoever the cable provider
Right.
is, Comcast or.
And who is the regulatory authority?
The regulatory authority in this case is the Office of
Office of Cable
Cable
Television,
Television.
which is under the BPU. The
Board of Public Utilities.
Board of Public Utilities, right. And so there's set expectations, and those things are not problematic. All the cable companies, I think, seem to do a pretty good job with that. People get confused because they say, but now we have Verizon. Well, you think about it, Verizon is a telephone company. They already have wires strung there they have had forever. And so they're logically going to be a competitor because they also have the infrastructure to offer service.
Well, they're also, I mean, Comcast is competing with them for the phone business, as is Vonage, and
Except Vonage is internet, not.
well, my
Yeah,
point being,
yeah.
there's a lot of competition for things that when we were growing up, you turned on your TV, there was no cable,
Yeah.
and phone company, there was the phone company. That's not the way it is anymore.
And the reality is that in a lot of places in the country today, 30% of the people do not have a landline telephone anymore. They use just the wireless telephone.
Which means that,
And that's going to be the thing of the future, that probably we won't use landline telephones. And of course, the telephone company understood that, and that's why
They're
they're
looking for-
moving into all the services. Now, Kevin could probably explain to us why fiber optic, which is what all the companies are running, is superior and what that enables.
Well, fiber optic, the way it runs for voice, data, and video, it just basically is being compressed to a point and running cleaner over fiber optic
what
lines.
does that mean? I mean, compressed.
Well, if we were looking at it from a physical aspect, this is more of an electronic aspect, the way data flows. But if you were looking at a physical aspect, you would have a channel that was, let's say, this wide, but through technology and bandwidth management, the channels for television, internet access, voice, they go down. And because of that, we're able to fit more and more and more onto one particular strand of fiber than we are for coax. Coax cable is just one static piece of line where the bandwidth, for whatever reason, just can't be expanded enough for a whole slew of other different
So the
information to be
fiber
running
optics,
on it.
as just a guy who wants to watch the ball game tonight, fiber optics is going to give me a better picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
Are all of, ultimately, between Comcast and Vias, are they all going to be fiber optics?
They all have to be fiber optic in the future. Anytime there's a problem with wiring, they replace it with fiber optic. And I mean, I think that that's why since since the telephone company knew that they were going to be replacing things with fiber optic, which then enabled them to provide all of the services, obviously they would do it.
Well, it's not that long ago, a couple of years ago, there was a fairly heated battle in this state before the state legislature and the Senate between Verizon and the cable companies to give them the rights to do this.
Well, it wasn't that so much. They had the right to compete, but the difference was Verizon did not want to go and negotiate a franchise with all of the 500-plus municipalities in the state.
Doesn't that get me money as a municipality if they have to do
Well,
that?
you know, see, cable companies have to go and negotiate the franchise with
Right.
every local community. Verizon managed to lobby very heavily in a bipartisan way with the legislature and convince them to pass a statewide franchise law that any of the companies could use, but right now only Verizon is using it. And so they don't have to essentially negotiate with or talk to the local community. They just follow the statewide franchising law. This they said, kept them from having to go through this cumbersome process of coming and spending a long time negotiating with you.
Which is where you guys are right
Yeah.
now with Comcast,
Right. Yeah.
so the rather cumbersome process of negotiating.
But the difference is this, and the difference is the cable companies have always provided cities who have access channels like ours with some other things, some support, some money to help run the station, provide equipment usually, and do some other things. Whereas under the new law, Verizon doesn't have to do this. Now, what's the difference? The old law, there's a 2% rebate on the service back to the city. Mm-hmm. Under the new law, the way they sold it to the legislators, where there's a 4% rebate back to the city for people who are on FiOS.
So theoretically, I might get more money.
You might get more money, except it passes through the state government, so
It remains to be
it
seen.
remains to be
Yes, it
seen.
does.
Right.
And in a budget crisis, that kind of, the funds that pass through the state, we'll see if they
So
come.
basically, that's the difference. I mean, to the consumer, it really doesn't make a lot of difference. They want to compare services, compare what they hear, what they see, what's available,
Right.
compare costs. Any of the providers, whether it's Verizon, DirecTV, or Cablevision, new people when they first connect are going to get a super deal. But you know, actually what's confusing to a lot of customers is understanding what they're going to pay, what they're going to be charged for, because there's such a plethora of different kinds of packages out there to buy.
I mean, I think one of the things that looks good to a consumer is I'm getting one bill for all these services.
That's right.
Even if it's high, it's one bill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much longer that's going to work in this economy. What kind of things are you looking at based on what you heard at the meetings and what you've heard around town? New, if anything, new from Comcast as part of this negotiation?
Well, probably first and foremost, one of the things that we'll be looking at for this go-around in negotiations, Adam, is the potential or the actuality of the Long Branch Public School District getting their own PEG channel, their own education channel. The original plan is to have a head end similar to what we have here at Monmouth University for the government channel, to have the head end at Long Branch High School, where they have brand new studios that were built in part with the new high school that went up a couple years ago. Also, too, they also have another studio in the middle school, which can be used for production purposes, and then just walk tape or discs over to the high school to air.
So in addition to Channel 20,
But that's correct.
they'll
right.
have their own
So what
broadcast
we're
schedule,
shooting for is two
presumably.
channels, the government channel, the municipal channel we have now, Channel 20, and an additional channel for the school district.
Anything, I mean, I know that we get people at meetings who want us to broadcast planning board, zoning board, and the council meetings. I don't know if the council will ever go for that. But is that on the table also?
Well, they don't really make programming decisions for us. They provide grants for equipment and so forth, and that's part of the negotiation process. So what we do with that is then up to the city government and the cable commission.
Now, I mean, we all know, I mean, Comcast is feeling the economic times also. Is it likely, from your perspective, watching what other towns are doing, that they're going to be generous in this negotiation process, or do you really know that at this moment?
We don't know at this point.
Yeah, we don't. That's hard to gauge right now.
Yeah, but I mean, some people have asked why would they even bother to do this? Why don't they just go to the state contract? And when I've asked them that directly, Comcast has said, well, because we have a 30 to 40 year record of community service to a lot of these communities, and we feel we can better serve them with the municipal franchise.
Now, I know that we're going back to the days before Comcast when there was a store. I mean, at one point there was a studio in town. I think once they bought a van for the city. But, you know, we've had, you know, the equipment that we use. So they've been okay with us, from my perspective. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, see, the regulatory area has changed, though. In the early 70s, every new cable provider was expected to provide a certain amount of local programming, a studio, and some personnel. Well, by the time we got to the 80s, the FCC was in a deregulatory mode and listened to the cable companies who didn't want to do that anymore, and so that sort of went away, except in some communities that kept all of that and kept it up. I mean, there are communities in New Jersey. If you went to Woodbridge City Hall, for example, you'd see they have magnificent studio facilities and a professional staff of 4 full-time people, but they've always had that ever since the 70s, and so they have maintained it because it was a legacy that started in the 70s. But then we have a lot of communities right around us who don't even have an access channel.
Well, that's a perfect segue. Why we don't need. I mean, Long Branch doesn't need a studio. We've had access, you know, partly thanks to you and partly thanks to Admiral Gaffney, to a great studio and facility that you have here.
Well, Monmouth University feels that as a service, we ought to try to make this available and do some work. I mean, we can't make it broadly available because we use it so much ourselves, but we do consistently do this show and occasionally some other things in order to do that. Plus, we provide a location for the head end, which is that...
What's the head end?
The head
I
end,
know what it is.
Head end is that electronic equipment that programs and sends out the signal for the channel 20. And of course, we also utilize one of our techs to maintain it.
You know, the university has been very generous to us. I mean, the facility here, it's 4 years ago now, I interviewed Mr. Blangier from the old Asbury Park Press. I mean, he treated the university well.
Well, he gave us the basic grant to build this building. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty generous. But I mean, it's a phenomenal facility over here.
Well, we're very proud of what we have. And from the very beginning, we're in our 6th year in here. We were totally digital, which kind of gives you, from the start, because that's where everything was. Now we're in the process of trying to convert to HD, which is the next step up. So you see, in the electronic world, things constantly evolve and change.
Well, we appreciate coming over here. I know that Kevin enjoys what he does.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
And I certainly, from my perspective, appreciate the amount of time you guys volunteer for us.
Well, the Cable Commission really appreciates the fact that you've been willing for years now to come in and do this show, to get to introduce people to a lot of the city officials, to the things that are going on. It's very important.
Well, I've enjoyed it too, and I'm looking forward to doing it for a few more years. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.